Welcome back to the Gothic Chef. Today we are making Easter pie. Yes, some of you may know this, some of you may not. It is very high in fat, very high in calories, and the ultimate food debauchery at Easter. Let's get started. Hi there. So, this is a family tradition in my family, obviously, and a lot of families. It is a pie that is made around Easter and only at Easter time because, like I said, it is extremely high in fat and extremely high in calories and very bad for you. Some people call it Easter pie. My family called it pastiche, Pastiche. You let me know if you've made this and what you call it. There's various names for it, but it's made with a lot of meat and a lot of cheese and a lot of eggs, and I think it's delicious, but you really can only eat it once a year. So we're going to start off with the dough ingredients. We have 3 cups of flour. We have a half a cup of sugar, and this is a very important ingredient. 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Yes, baking powder, not baking soda. And the bad ingredient, 1 cup of melted shortening. Yes, shortening. Not butter, shortening. Yes, it's bad for you, but it's a very important ingredient. It makes an absolutely tender, flaky, wonderful dough. So now I'll show you the filling ingredients. So for the filling, we have 1 pound of cubed cooked ham, about 1/4 inch pieces, about like that. And we have 1/2 pound of cooked sweet Italian sausage. Traditionally, my family uses hot Italian sausage, but my mother-in-law does not like hot Italian, so I made sweet. We have 1/2 pound of dry bulk ricotta. You can't get this usually in a normal grocery store. You have to go to a specialty cheese store, and I highly recommend that you do that. You can use the one in the grocery store, but you probably should drain it overnight. And then this is called Tuma cheese, Tuma. It's like ricotta. It's a little drier. And again, it's called Tuma, not like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It's not a Tuma. Okay, but you get this the same place you get the dry bulk ricotta. 1/4 pound of pecorino romano, shredded, freshly shredded if you can. 4 raw eggs. We're going to beat those before we put them in the filling. Salt and pepper. I try not to put too much of salt in there because all the other meats are salty. 6 boiled eggs cut up into fairly small pieces. I don't want them real tiny like mushy, but I want to be able to see them. So we'll start off by putting the dough together. I like to use a food processor because a food processor really does a good job of making dough, specifically pie crust type dough. It comes together really nice and very quickly with very minimal effort. And considering it takes a while to put this together, that's always a big help. So we'll start off by putting the dry ingredients in. We'll start with the flour. We'll add in the baking powder, sprinkle it around, and then we'll add the sugar. And we'll give it a little whiz. Pulse it, pulse it. Let's all pulse it. That could be a song, I think. And then we will add our dreaded melted shortening that's going to clog your arteries. Put in the egg. Pulse it again. Well, not really pulse it. We'll whiz it, start whizzing it around. And then add the semi-warm water a little bit at a time until it starts riding around the outside of the food processor. Once it starts twirling around in a big ball, you've got dough. Just like this. I don't know why I made it go this long, but nonetheless, you could stop it now. Thank you. See how smushy it is and nice? So we'll start putting the filling together first, and then we'll roll out the pie dough. So you want to put the cheeses in first because they need to get broken up by the spoon first, because if you start adding the eggs and all the other ingredients, everything's just going to be in a giant lump. So you want to break up the cheese as best as you can. The ricotta's not as hard to break up as the tuma. That's real dry, so you really want to give it a good mush. Yeah, it takes a while, but doing it by hand is better. Beat the eggs. I like to use a fork. You don't have to make them extremely foamy, but try to get the yolks and the whites completely combined. Like that. And then incorporate the eggs with the cheeses. You could add the Roman cheese, but mix the eggs with the tuma cheese and the ricotta cheese for a little bit first before you add in the Roman cheese. Or Romano cheese, as everybody calls it. As you can see, it's coming together nicely. Yeah, you get a sore arm mixing this stuff together, but I'm not a fragile flower. So we'll start putting the meat in. We'll start with the sausage, and then you could put the ham in. Mix that around first. You want to put the boiled eggs in last, because if you put them in now and you start mixing everything around, you're going to have mashed eggs, and you don't really want mashed eggs. I mean, I don't know, some people like the eggs mashed up. I don't. If you see any lumps of cheese, make sure that you break those up. You want it as evenly incorporated as possible. You want the ham and the sausage and all the cheeses nice and evenly incorporated and dispersed. Tap, tap, tap. Make sure you tap. Put a little salt and pepper in. Like I said, you can go easy on the salt if you want. I might have put a little bit too much salt in this one, but that's what it calls for. So, because my family are a bunch of salt heads, so I put a teaspoon in. Might have been able to get away with a half a teaspoon. You judge if you want to do a little bit at a time. Tap, tap, tap. And the last thing, like I said, the boiled eggs. Put them in last, so you don't want mashed eggs. You want nice pieces to stick out of your Easter pie. Just kind of fold them around. So I use a spatula for this because it's a little more gentle on the eggs. You just want to fold them in. A piece of ham was trying to get away, but I caught it just in time. And as you can see, it's coming together nicely, nice and evenly distributed. Tap, tap, tap. Filling is ready. Now we'll do the dough. So it's going to make about two crust pies. It'll make a deep dish and it'll make a regular dish pie. I keep it covered in plastic wrap while I'm making my dough because you want to keep it nice and moist. So the first thing you want to do is take your pie dish and you want to spray a little bit of any type of cooking spray. I like to use the Bertolli olive oil spray, but you could use whatever you want. Pam, any cooking spray you want. And sprinkle some flour around your rolling area. This is going to be a very, very sticky dough. It's going to fall apart and it's going to look like a complete and utter disaster. But I promise you it will be absolutely delicious when it's done. Very tender dough, and what makes it tender is the shortening, which is why you use shortening. Yes, it's bad for you. I know it's bad for you. And you can tell it's bad for you because when I was washing the measuring glass, I had to put the water on extremely hot. It was probably about 110 degrees coming out of the faucet in order to melt the shortening. And our body temperatures are 98.6, so you can do the math. Yeah, I'm not trying to frighten you, but it's only once a year. So keep rolling it out until you get a nice piece for your deep dish pie. Let's see where we're at. Well, it looks good. So, yes, it looks like it's falling apart and it's a big, massive disaster, but I promise you it is going to be perfectly fine. Yes, there's holes in it. I'm going to patch that all up. And it will be absolutely beautiful. Fear not. Because what you don't want is you don't want to add piles and piles of flour, because then it's going to be this hard, rubbery, I don't know, it's going to be like a hockey puck when you're eating it. You don't want that. So you just be patient and keep playing with it, and I promise you it will be perfectly fine. Okay, so now we're going to put the filling in our deep dish pie, and you don't want to make it heaping, but you want to make it a little bit, I would say, a little bit over the edge, so that it doesn't shrink down too much. Now, this is actually pretty giving. Pretty giving. It really doesn't shrink that much. Because all the stuff is pretty solid. The meat, there's a lot of meat. There's cheese in there, but there's also eggs, solid eggs. So it stays pretty solid. Unlike when you do like blueberry pie or something like, the fruit shrinks, so you have to kind of pile it in a big mound. See, that's just right. So now we're going to do the top of the deep dish pie. And I won't bore you by having you watch me roll out this whole big piece again, but it's going to be about the same. It's going to look like it's falling apart. Just keep sprinkling a little bit of flour over it, just so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. And then roll it out. And you're not going to have to roll it as wide as you will for the bottom, because the deep dish pie, you need a little bit bigger piece. And that looks about right. And this time I'm just going to flop it over the top. And now I will show you how I trim it and how I crimp it. I like to use the scissors. This scissors is it's actually my pizza scissors. It's for cutting pizza slices, believe it or not. See, it has a little flat thing on the bottom. It actually does a great job of cutting pizza. So I like to trim all around the edge. Probably leave about a half an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch. I just kind of eyeball it. I don't really measure it. Keep the extra dough. You're going to put that back in your pile. But trim all the way around. Get all the excess dough off the edge, because you don't want huge chunks of pie crust on the end of your pie. You want a little bit, but you don't want massive pieces. And you can keep trimming as you go along too. So I'm going to put that back in with the rest of the dough and wrap it up so it stays nice and moist. And now I'm going to show you how I like to crimp. And everybody does crimping differently, because crimping ain't easy. Yeah, I know, that's an old joke. So what you do is I flip the dough over first. I take the bottom and flip it over the top, and I just go around at first. And then I go around again, and I do the actual crimping and prettying up. So you're flipping the dough over from the bottom, because what you're doing is you're putting the two crusts together to make them secure. So that's what I do. I just flip them over. If you see a little excess dough that you missed, trim it off, make it nice and neat. But just keep putting the two pieces together, and see, flip it over so that they get stuck together, if you can understand my hand motions. And then once you have it all the way around, then start crimping. Some people do it like that. I don't do it like that. I do it like that. I think it's quicker, I think it's easier, and it's just what I'm used to. So now it's time to get it prettied up. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, because keep in mind, this is homemade, and everybody will know it's homemade. If it's too perfect, they're going to think you bought it at the store. You don't want to think that. You don't want people to think you bought it. You want to make sure everybody knows that you slaved over this, making this with your two little hands. So, once you get it all nice and crimped, we're going to egg wash it. And then we're going to put holes in it. So what I'll do is I'll make the other pie, and then when I have the other one done, I will come back and we'll egg wash it. Okay, so now we're going to put the egg wash on. I have both of the pies done. As you can see, the pie on your left is the deep dish, and the pie on the right is the smaller one. You can see there's a little bit of difference. I don't know if you could tell, but the pie on the right is just a regular pie dish. The one on the left is a deep dish. So this recipe will make pie dishes like that. I will put all the measurements in the recipe on my website. So we're going to get a little ramekin with about a teaspoon of cold water in the bottom. I don't know if you could see it. And one whole egg. And crack the egg in, and you're going to mix this really, really well. You don't want any drippy, slimy egg whites. You really want to mix this well. So you don't have to mix it to the point where it's yellow and foamy, but you do want it to be completely incorporated before you slather it on the top of the pie. Tap, tap, tap. So take your pastry brush, and before you put the holes in it, put the egg wash on. So just make sure that you put a decent amount on the pie, because this helps make it look shiny. It kind of completes the pies. I don't know if there are any other benefits to this other than making it look pretty and adding a little bit of flavor to it, but I always do it. So now we'll make some holes. It's Easter, so I'll make a cross on the first one. And then on the second one, how about we do a smiley face? A little nose and a little smile. I don't know if you could see it, but... So we're going to bake these pies at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to reduce the temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 50 minutes, and then keep checking them. When they're golden brown, take them out. And everybody's oven is different, so you have to keep watching them. I'll show you what they look like when they come out. So here we are. It's a nice golden brown. Perfect. Definitely done. So the moment of truth has arrived. My weapon of choice. Sometimes when it's still warm, it falls apart a little bit. You might not get a solid slice, but once you put it in the refrigerator, it'll solidify nicely, and all will be right with the world. But I can tell by cutting into it that the crust is incredibly flaky and absolutely already feels delicious. First piece never comes out right anyway. However, this wasn't too bad. Not too bad. That's gorgeous. Not bad. Smells phenomenal, of course. Let's give it a taste. Absolutely delicious. Can't stress it enough. If you're a meat and cheese person, this is the dish for you. Absolutely tasty and delicious. Yum. There you have it. So there you have it, Easter pie. Please try it out. I'll have a full recipe with instructions on my website. There will be a link below in the description to my website. If you like this video, please give me a like, please subscribe, share it with your friends. Let me know if you tried it and what you thought. And I will see you next time on The Gothic Chef.